Hi guys, welcome back to Witch the Pot with me, Craig Spencer, where I talk to interesting magical people. And today's amazing, extra special magical person is Taren S. Hi Taren, welcome. Thank you for being on.
Hello, Craig. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, and I am so excited for this. But first, for anybody who hasn't met you yet, either in person or online, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello to everyone out there. I am Taren S. I'm an American. I identify as Southern conjurer, Southern folk magic, Southern witch. As you notice, there's an ongoing theme of I'm Southern. And that's pretty much how I describe myself.
I think that's perfect. Thank you so much. And that actually segues me straight in to my first question, because you often describe yourself in your writing as a proud Southern conjuring witch. And I wanted to know if you could please explain what exactly does that mean in a simple statement, or as however long and complex as it needs to be.
I am part of Southern folk magic. My grandma was a prayer healer, a Southern Baptist prayer healer. So from a child, I was exposed to magic and mysticism. And then in my teenage years, I put on the pointy black hat and decided to complicate things a little bit and step more into the world of folk witchcraft, modern witchcraft. And so I still honor my conjuring roots at the same time as my witchy self. That's why I call myself a Southern conjuring witch. Not all conjurers are witch. Most root worker types don't even identify as witches.
I love that. Thank you. And you actually make a very good distinction between conjure and the influences of hoodoo and the cultural boundary, the respect. And I love that about you because you're so aware of the roots, the influences of the South, but also proud of, as you often say, the dirt that's your dirt and that you live on. And I think that's great. You describe that so well.
I was didn't understand how to describe it. If you had asked me these same questions 10 years ago, I would not have had the right words or the phraseology. I think as a community, we're still learning a lot. Because if you had discussed what I said, 30, 40, 50 years ago, we would have said the word hoodoo. They're doing hoodoo and not gone in and understand what a giant umbrella you're saying. It's equivalent to me saying, I'm pagan, and then just expecting you to understand. What do you mean you don't know? All right, because pagan is such a large umbrella. Hoodoo is such a large umbrella. And Southern conjure is influenced by, an offshoot of, a byproduct. There's a lot of different ways to say this, but it is, definitely influenced by the Middle Passage, the enslaved Black folks, African Americans, however, again, your phrases are on this. And at the same time, understanding that, there was other influences, there was Native American, there was different aspects of European influences coming into it. And in my case, it was a very Christianized influence into magic. And that was the use of the Psalms and prayer healings, because my grandma believed that, the Bible could solve everything. And hoodoo itself, when we discuss, again, there are these it's such a large world from where I am over into our areas where we do tinge in the Appalachia, and then going up into Granny Magic. There's a layover there in Louisiana. We've got plantation hoodoo, we have plantation voodoo, and these different segments that are all part of this big, beautiful, funky gumbo of American folk magic that has been evolving for about 400 years now. We know that our earliest settlers, colonists, brought over their folk magic with them. Every group that came to America brought us a little something, and we put it in the gumbo. And so sometimes it is hard to, for folks outside of the bubble to be like, what the hell? How are they doing this? Inside our bubble, we don't actually use a lot of words that I hear. Like for me growing up and everything, I knew about the hoodoo, but it was never called that. So I've often said, people say, oh, I'm doing a little something, something. Don't worry about it. And that's all you said right there. And everybody's doing a little something, something around here. And folks, again, like the culture it is part of our culture. I'm going to tell a little story because this just happened to me last week. I had to go update the will. We're doing some legal stuff. So I had to go we had to hire a lawyer. So I hired me one of those good old boy country lawyers here. Had to give him a contracts for my books and all that stuff. He says, what you writing about? And I said, I write about conjuring and root working. And he goes, you got to be careful with some of that. They'll put the root on you if they don't like you. I said, I know they will. I know they will. And that was just a normal part of a conversation. I'm sitting in my lawyer's office. He's very much aware of what goes on around us. You will be walking. I was down in Charleston. I looked down and somebody's got a little tea light and a half-burnt cigar sitting there. And they poured a little something out you knew it was working. It was right on the corner. All right, I just sitting right there. And again, it's so part of what we do, we don't even talk about it. And so I had to learn to talk about my world.
I love that. It reminded me when you said about just the working right there, and it reminded me of something that I once saw in town here, and we have it's an obelisk in the middle of the town. It's like Max, where the very center of the town is. When the town borders move, it gets moved a little, and the base of it was previously something else. And then when we had like a big pilgrim thing here, the pilgrims didn't like that people were sort of doing what they saw as like what's the word, idolatry, like they were going there doing something, so they made it get smashed. But what the stonemason did is he said, well, can we put an obelisk there or something? They tried to find something they could put there in its place, and they said, yeah, that's fine. And what he did is he saved the base of the thing that had got smashed and then just built the obelisk on top of it. And if you look at it and you know that story, you can see that it's two different ages of stone. And there was, once I was just walking back to my car in town because there's a good parking spot near it. And there was this woman, and she literally came with a whole pot, and she just walked up to it, threw the contents at the base of it, turned around, walked straight back, never looked back, as you know. And I thought, I love that. I'm walking to my car and someone's just throwing their offering, leaving. And the justification, even though everybody knows what's going on, the justification is the councillor's little signs, and it goes, please do not feed the pigeons.
Please.
And it's like, we all know what's going on.
And that was part of the book, because talking about my conjuring tour for me was about letting folks see that you have your own magic. I'm going to talk about mine. I'm going to tell you some of my stories, but at the same time, I want to inspire you to understand that where you stand is so magical. There's magic going on around you. You just have to learn to see it. The best place to hide stuff is in plain sight. And a lot of times we think we got to go far away, or we got to go over here, or we got to find some secret book or something, and understand it's right there in front of you. You know, you pay attention to the door sweeping. That every morning that lady opens her shop up and she's out there sweeping a certain way. You know, I know like at Papa's Botanica, every morning that door's open and Papa sweeps out bad and then he starts sweeping in money. He has this whole little thing he does. And to somebody walking by, all you see is somebody sweeping. But in reality, this is a complete magical working that is going on in this doorway. We love sweeping in the South. It's just a thing we like to do. We've got rules on sweeping out the front door. We got rules on sweeping out the back door, sweeping this way, sweeping that way, and everything, and how important that is to move energy. And again, to somebody walking in, you wouldn't see it.
Yeah, it's so true. Like you said, that was my biggest takeaway from the book, actually, or one of them, I should say, because there was. We'll get onto it in a moment, but the amount of stuff that I was like, yes, you know, I love the book. I do. I'm just going to say, you know, I love the book. But you actually segued straight into my next point. I was going to say you actually have a connection with Haitian Voodoo, which was through Papa Nico's shop. I'm right the words out. Correct me if I am wrong. Have you been initiated into that voodoo system? You have some type of relationship to do it into Mama Bridget, if I'm correct.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I've been part of the house for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
Yes, I am part of a Haitian American Voodoo. Papa is Haitian. He is from Jacmel, and he spends about half the time in Haiti, and then half the time here in South Carolina. I met him 32 years ago, and I was a young witch that was looking for solid black candles. And I went up to his place and he told me he could give me candles, and we became friends. And slowly, over the course of many years, from the time, you know, I walked through the door, it was well over 10 years later before I took those steps. And within Haitian Voodoo, he is my godfather, is how I reference him. When people ask, my godfather is Papa Nico. All right, and at his bequest, and also because I am American, I am of European descent, I am not somebody to represent this. So I don't talk very often about it, nor do I have to stand on any type of a platform with this. I am a guest within this tradition, so I always have to be mindful of that.
I loved that. That was like the perfect answer. And I really want to emphasize a point that you said, because I've been talking about this subject quite recently, actually, with somebody else. And you said the best thing, which was about the time it takes to build that trust and enter into that space. And then, as I like to call them, you get the 1 week mambos who go somewhere a week later, they're a mambo and they set up shop and they become the authority in something that takes so long to even get a foot in the door of. And I'm glad that that was part of your answer, the time.
It was 10 years before I was truly made aware of the house. And then it was another 7 years before I went through my personal initiation. Yes, I carry the spirit of Mama Bridget. For me to carry that spirit, I traveled to Ireland, to the sacred wells of Bridget, because I wanted to take part in that. I went to Bridget's Cathedral. I spent time learning St. Bridget's prayers so that I could give those properly. Came back to America. A year later, I went to Haiti and went through part of my initiation there. So it was a definite process. I also had 2 other mambos Racine Sansabout, who came and identified that I indeed carried the spirit with me, that I carry Mama Bridget. I don't know how other folks do it. I'm not going to say what you're doing, other folks are doing is right or wrong, but I know for me, and also for me being in Haiti, it's not unusual to hear of people that 20 years before they go through their initiation, where they are part of a certain house, and it takes a while for that to happen. It is not like the Western occultism of a year and a day, or in 3 years, or a 6-week correspondence course, and things like that. It's a very slow, meaningful process that happens, you know, and I'm happy that it took that long. All right, I'm happy that everything that I went through to get to those points, you know, because after I came back from Haiti, I also went down to Miami because there is a very large Haitian population down there. And there is one of our sister houses down there that I had to go down and be recognized through them as well. You know, and so, yes, I see online some of the stuff, and I don't know anything about that. Papa says the internet's evil.
I agree. A lot of it is.
So I don't pay much mind to that.
Yeah, this corner of the internet is not evil. I'm just going to put that out there for the interview. This is a safe space. Maybe well, that was evil.
Folks, you know, I got on the internet in 2019. All right, that was my first forte into social media content creation, everything.
Wow.
Yeah, April 2019 is when I got online, because in the shop, I had been working in the shop by then for about 20 years. We were not encouraged to get on the internet. We were not encouraged to go chit chat with other folks. And after spending several years on the internet, I agree with Papa. No, don't do it. And if you do, be so mindful. You know, like you said, we have these supposed experts out there, you know, master class of witchcraft. You too can be a hoodoo practitioner, take my 6-week course. No, that's not what our community is about. And when we're talking about hoodoo, we're talking about Southern conjure, we're talking about folk magic. The underlying part of our history is about being of service to our community. It's not trying to commercialize, not trying to sell, not trying to see how much you can get off of people, but it's what can you do to be of benefit to where your community, where you're living. You know, our old school root workers were the doctors, because, you know, poor folks can't afford to go to a doctor up in town. That's what fancy people do. Instead, you know, you go down to the local root worker, conjure, spirit worker, and they put together a tonic for you. They say some prayers for you, and you get better. And so the original part of hoodoo is about healing, about being of service. And I see a lot of times online where they try to make it this darker aspect, you know. And it's like, my favorite place is graveyards. And in no way is that macabre or trying to be a horror flick. It is about really understanding that it's a beautiful place to go, to have spiritual experiences, to be spiritually uplifted, to feel connected to divinity just a little more for a little while. You know, we're not in there. Yes, occasionally we do nefarious things. I'm not going to sit here and say we don't stand on the other side of midnight, but like 99% of our stuff is about being the good side of it. And for me, I get a little frustrated when I see the way it's being commercialized out as this power over on people. You know, what we do, because we have some of our workings, you know, but those are so minor. They don't tell all the other good stuff. I could sit and rant about this for a while, so I'm just gonna.
No, it's so true, and it's it. I've actually been giggling online recently as well. It's like you said about like the service, not the commercialism, and then the we're not a horror flick thing. And I always love when you see the people and they're like all powerful, dark, spooky. They can teach you all these secrets, but then they're like, can people fund my whatever? And it's like, if they can't even give themselves a bit of cash, they can't even get the project over the line, what can they teach you about magic? They're not being dark, they're not being spooky, they're not conjuring up anything that's of help, because it can't even help them. If the only help that they have is someone else's bank account, like you said, the magic's for the people who can't afford things. It's not generally for the people who fancy people, and it's not for the people getting a lot of donations and freebies from people. It's from the people who genuinely build connection. And I think that's the thing, like you said, the connection with the divine, that connection with the space, the place, and the authenticity. I think um, a lot of the truth is more interesting than this sort of like sanitized but then like fantasized version of it, which is something which I know will be part of your House of Witchcraft, a proper to the point traditional teaching. Can you tell us about the House of Witchcraft, which I'm now surprised that we've only heard about since 2019? I feel like I've known about you forever, and my mind is blown over that. 2019.
Well, the house has been around longer than the social part of it. It was local, it was small, and I had the opportunity to go to California and to step outside my world and go someplace different. And I just, that the universe, the gods, the goddess, God blessed me with this opportunity, because leaving my world, I got to look back on it. And for me, that's what Conjuring Dirt was. I was sitting, in Southern California, remembering my world. And so I wrote Conjuring Dirt in California about this place. And knowing I was coming back, I've been back here about 8 months now. But the conjure part for me, and wanting to really let folks see the real side of it, I guess. I hate to say that word. I just, that word sometimes, I'm using it, but I saw a lot of people spewing nonsense, and I'm like, that's not how we do it. I'm gonna start me a YouTube channel and tell folks, that's not how we do it. I'm telling stories in California, and these people are like, really? That's what y'all do? And I'm like, I'm gonna write it down. And that's how Conjuring Dirt came about, I'm telling these stories to other people in the world, realizing they don't know them, and also that it's inspiring them to look at their dirt. And the House of Witchcraft itself was an opportunity. We decided that we were going to go public with it, be more open about it. We are an American folklore witchcraft tradition. We actually have, because I was involved in the same time working with Papa, was the same time I was working with another folk witch here, and which had a group of folks going. She's from a lineage tradition of folk witches. And so I got to stand in the crossroads between these worlds, and the House of Witchcraft represents that. We're modern witches. We are an anti-dogma religion, because we're about you do, you boo. It's honor, reverence, and respect. It's graciousness, kindness, and acceptance. And all of those words, learning who you are, your magic is, and letting other folks do their stuff, respecting others. And I'm so proud of the house. If you're interested, we have a 13 Moons program folks can join. in which you can come and participate in some of the things that we're doing. And I always tell people, it's like, I have a book club going on right now that we're actually doing your book in. But that is a community. There's no charge involved. That's where if you want to come and sit and chat with us, we're here. And I love that we get to do that. We are definitely a lineage tradition, but at the same time, we're very much an open, come join in.
I love that. I really do. I'm going to put, I'll just make a note to everyone watching. I will put all the links and everything to that in the description. So if you want to connect with Taren, if you want to find out more about the House of Witchcraft generally, and I'm also going to put at the time that we're recording this, your latest YouTube video on there, because I really enjoyed it. It's 6 minutes long, but it's full of important information that I think we forget about ourselves. And we were talking about this before we started recording, but I'm going to put it in the description that everyone else can start talking about it too. Okay, so I'm going to move on very quickly to a quick fire round, which I've already discussed with you, but I'll explain it to everybody who's watching. So this is where I ask Taren some quick fire questions, no explanation as to why the answers, and it's just a bit of why not. You know me. If you're watching this channel for any length of time, you know I'm a little crazy, so we're just doing it. Well, are you ready for the quick fire?
Yes.
So, text or talk?
Talk.
I like that. Tea or coffee?
What?
Tea or coffee?
Oh, tea.
Ooh, okay. I wasn't expecting that. I will be honest. Invisibility or mind reading?
Mind reading.
McDonald's or KFC?
Oh, yuck.
We'll take that as your answer. That's fine. And then Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Charmed?
Oh, definitely Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
And then quick fire of favorites. What's your favorite season?
Spring.
Favorite color?
Oh, green.
Favorite song?
Let's get the party. What is that song that they play for me all the time? The Black Eyed Peas song. Boom Boom Pow, Black Eyed Peas.
Good choice. I like that one. Favorite book?
My favorite book of The Mist of Avalon by Maria Zimmerman.
That's a good pick. See, I feel like we're the same person sometimes. I really do. And what's your favorite film?
I've got to. I'm like, I have to say it. Practical Magic.
We are the same person. I was once asked if I could only watch one film for the rest of my life, what would it be? And I went Practical Magic. I only watch it once a year on Halloween, because Halloween is my favorite day, and Practical Magic is my favorite film. So it's the only time in the year. Consider it's my favorite film. I only watch it that one day of the year, and it's my tradition.
So do I. I shit you not. I'm not joking. That it's like on Halloween we have to watch Practical Magic. We've been doing it for years.
I've been doing it since I got the film. That has been my tradition. It's like I am stunned. I was not expecting that at all. After I've literally just gone, God, I feel like we're just like the same person, the same tradition. I love that when we're watching it, we're both watching it. See, I will know that this year. I'll think, Taren's watching this today.
We're going to know this Halloween. We're going to be like, I know who else is watching this.
Tell us in the comments, does anybody else have the same tradition? And if not, create the tradition. It's a great tradition.
It is. And it's a great movie.
It is.
it's just good. And there's some of the best lines are in that movie. I think that there's a truth to our community. My favorite line in the entire movie is when they're talking about they have to go to the solstice celebration because they're on the committee. All right. And which many of us who are involved in getting out there understand. You're like, dude, I'm on the committee. I got to go. I don't have a choice. And then when she says, they're talking, no nudity. And one of the aunts is like, well, no, honey, clothing is optional. All right. I love that whole scene because I have seen it in real life happen. It's so ring of truth to our community. These little moments of it where I'm like, yeah, whoever was helping consult obviously had a very magical awareness of the community and was able to have fun with it.
Yeah, yeah. And I always said the best thing about it is no matter what genre you like, it's in there. It's got that serious family thing. It's funny. It's got a bit of horror. It's a love story. It's like everything you could want in one film. And it's got magic. It's got witches. It's like, who wouldn't want to watch it? But enough about film because we're not here for a film review. We're here to talk about a book, and that is what we're now doing. See, I love that anybody now can watch back my shocked face. But here's the book, Conjuring Dirt. It is amazing. I'm just going to quickly just take a moment before I ask you anything about it, just to give this point. I've not done this. I didn't plan on doing this with anybody, but I have to do this for this book. The title of this book is perfect, and I'll tell you why. You see anything on dirt, if you think I know about dirt in magic, no. People talk about dirt and they'd say, get this dirt, and then usually the most they'll tell you to do anything with it, if they tell you to do anything with it at all, they spend all this time explaining like a grave, this grave, that grave. And then you're like, no, what? I've got some dirt in a pot. What do I do with it? And the most they'll ever say to you is like, get a bit of flannel, put it in there and keep it in your pocket. This book is called Conjuring Dirt. This isn't get dirt. This isn't digging some dirt. This isn't called pot of dirt. It is conjuring dirt. And this dirt is conjured. It is conjured the hell out of. And there are things in here you will not have seen. I have read all sorts about hoodoo, conjure. I like knowing about other cultures. There are things in this book I've never ever seen anybody write down, and it's like, oh my god, it makes so much sense. So get this book because it's not dirt, it's Conjuring Dirt, and it does what it says on the tin. It really does. So with that, let's hear from the woman who wrote the thing. Right. So I think you already addressed my first question because I was going to ask you why dirt, why a book on dirt, but you sort of told us that because you said you moved away, you were thinking about your home dirt. But is there anything else of why specifically dirt, as opposed to something else on the vein of conjuring, hoodoo, and
The importance of it. Where did I? That's a very good question, Craig. It's actually, it would start with the footprint working, where listening to some of the practitioners at the shop, talk about how to get somebody to come back to you. You need a little bit of their footprint dirt. So I'm like, why do I need their footprint dirt? And then because the dirt holds that memory, that essence. And that started me down this rabbit hole of what else does the dirt know? And within the conjure, within hoodoo, dirt is so important. One of the most beautiful stories I heard was from somebody years ago, an old root work woman that said that her family's prized possession was a little handkerchief with dirt in it and supposedly her fifth great grandfather, who did the Middle Passage, had a handful of dirt. And he held this dirt through the entire Middle Passage, through the slave trade, over here to America, and he kept it, and it's been handed down in their family. I'm not going to, on the authenticity of this story, But what I thought was the beauty of this story and how important, and listening to her tell me this story, how proud she was that her family was able to have this little bit of dirt from Africa, and what it represented to her family, again, was that it's in the dirt. It's that dirt is carrying these memories for them, and for them, it is real, because I had somebody would tell me, they're like, well, what is the probability of that? And I'm like, I don't care. What I care is the story. And the story is the most beautiful story I've heard on how special is dirt. Dirt is so special that folks hold a handful of it through one of the most horrific middle passages, because they know that if they can keep that dirt, they can keep a piece of themselves. Dirt becomes important because if you hold a handful of dirt in your hands, you are holding the entire universe. You are holding everything that was. You're holding everything that is, and everything that will be is right there in that dirt. And when you start really tapping into it, it takes on a life of its own. The dirt of the entrance to the graveyard, it's one of my favorite dirts. I just love to pick it up and hold it. I pick up dirt and I hold it and I pray over it. Typically you will hear me because, like, my grandma, Psalms 91 is my go-to, and I will sit there and do the Psalms over it, and then I just put the dirt back down in front of it. And I feel like I got all of the energies of everybody who's ever stepped through and into that realm. It's such a liminal space between the living and the dead. And at the same time, I was able to leave a little bit of blessing and protection for everybody who walks through that gate. And these little things that I was doing got translated over into conjuring dirt. And then, of course, I had the privilege of being able to sit somewhere in the shop and talk with other practitioners. For me, conjuring dirt, I wanted it to be what we're doing now. This isn't a historical reference of folk magic workings. These are workings that are being used now. This is how modern practitioners are using dirt. And to inspire folks that the dirt outside your door is just as magical. I do write about the Lowcountry Southern Conjure, and I tell folks, I wrote about it because it's my world. I want to inspire you, but I don't want you to move here. All right? Y'all stay where you're at. We got enough folks from up north that have come down here. And so, but every place is just as much magic. And you get into other parts of the world and you have your own stories and lore. You were just telling us the story about standing in the square, and that whole square and the dirt around that. I'd be out there sweeping it I'd be out there. I love to take dirt from the center of the town, and when I'm doing my circle, or not so much casting as I do more of a welcome spirits and witches of old who wish me well, and I will blow dirt to let the dirt go into it. I use it as a form of calling spirits.
I love that. I love everything that
I
you
didn't
said.
write that in the book.
No, you didn't. No, I'm so glad that it was here that you said it. It's like,
Actually,
but also, if you like that, go get the book. It's like, there you go. You actually, so again, we have to sort of, to a certain point, sever this psychic connection we've got going, because you already answered my second question. It's fine, which was your favorite type of dirt, but you've already told us your favorite type of dirt. It's like that grave dirt, and I loved that whole bit that you said, and I love those entrances. I love them. But it also segues me on very nicely to my third question, because of your your answer to the second one, which was you started talking about respectful gathering of dirt. And I really liked that because sometimes people forget about the spirits of grave, spirits of place. You know, I, I think people sometimes see things as what's the word I'm looking for? You know, it's just something that they can just go and take. They don't think about paying for the dirt, you know, like you mentioned. Do you have, yes, you have it in the book. I'm just saying, really quick for the video, can you give us one or two of your top do's and don'ts of being respectful?
Research, prepare yourself. Don't just walk into any old graveyard and grab any old thing. You need to have a relationship with that graveyard or cemetery, or at least know the history of it, have an idea who the type of people that were buried there, you know, is very much how you start. In today's world, it's so great because we can Google stuff. I had found a small family graveyard here down the street, and it has the name of it. So I just stood there Googling it and, you know, sat there and read about it, learned some stuff, and there's some really interesting little stories on it and everything. And so I actually went into the graveyard, sat down about center, and was like, hey, do y'all know what you've got up on the internet? And I was reading out loud the different stories I was hearing, and I could feel like the wind, that little rustle of like spirit folk were leaning in and listening to me. And everybody loves for people to talk about it. Dead folk love for people to talk about it. So when we talk, how do I show respect? I come in and take an interest in your life, in your time period. You know, I've done a little research. I know who your husband, your wife, your children. I knew that you died in the Civil War. I may know other, you know, well, actually, yellow fever was part of that graveyard. And that I have that knowledge. That is a form of offering. A lot of times you think, well, I've got to bring something material. No, it's not. It's speak their names out loud, tell their story, spend a couple of minutes straightening it up. You know, every graveyard I go into, folks, you will know that I've left, because outside of the gate will be a little pile of things that I've picked up, and I take them out of the graveyard and I pile them up neatly. Any branches, any garbage, any weeds, anything that I've done, I put it all in a little pile outside. So somebody, I don't know who, I assume in my mind somebody's going to come pick this up. All right. Because I very much believe that the best offering that I can give is the offering of myself, the offering of time. And that's how I show respect. Yes, making sure that you leave a couple of shiny pennies, or potentially, you know, a food offering or a libation. Yes, those are important. But what is so important is your connection to this space. Then also understanding that you're not only dealing with the spirits of the deceased there, but you're also dealing with the spirit of place. How did the spirit of place feel about you with the spirits in the graveyard? Some spirits of place are very protective, and that's why I've walked up to a graveyard, stopped and went like, oh, they really don't want me here. You can feel it. Part of conjuring dirt is your intuition, your connection to it. All right. Conjure is so personal. I can't tell you how to conjure. You can't tell me how to conjure, because we each have our own connection to divinity as we know it, our connection to spirit realm, and the way we conduct ourselves. All of that creates our magic. So for respectful is, yeah, know where you're walking. Don't be taking folks. And there are some places, and I did bring it up in the book, that you ought not go. You don't have no right to be up in that graveyard. I don't care who you are. You ain't got no right unless you have got a connection. I remember I used the plantation where we here in the Lowcountry, we have a lot of enslaved cemeteries. and I have skirted around them because everyone I get the feeling I've been near, they're not really wanting me there. And I respect that. So I don't. And the same as like, you know, if you, I was near a the Jewish section of Bonaventure Cemetery down in Savannah, Georgia has a small Jewish section. And I started to go down it because they had some really cool obelisk type things. I got about halfway in and I was like, the wind ain't blowing right. I just felt like the wind blowing out my back. I felt like it was more in my face, pushing me back, as opposed to pushing me in, is the best way I can explain what I felt. And that's not my place. That's not my dirt. All right. I can be respectful of it and gently walk through it, but it's not my place to say prayers. It's not my place to touch that dirt. I've got to be mindful. And there are places like that. And you honor it and you go on. There's so many other places you can go. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I really liked that you mentioned that in the book. Actually, it was one of the many things that I really appreciated about the book, because, like I said, there was actual technical magical things that you said in the book that I haven't seen before, but then there was also the respect thing that I haven't seen before, and it separates. Your book really did separate people who talk the aesthetic of something and people who experience it and live it, because people who live it will know that there are times you'll be rejected from something, and there'll be times when, like you said, you're invited in, you're pulled in, and it's that experience that I really valued in your book.
The way I a lot of times I'll be like, the wind just ain't blowing the right way. That's the best I can explain, because you really have to honor what you're feeling.
Mm.
And it does suck if you drive 3 hours somewhere to get someplace to find out they really don't want you. And you know, and we're so tempted. What do you mean I can't come in? You know,
it's so true.
And that's part of it, is that not every place is where we all should be. And
Very
that's
true.
okay.
Mm. It is. There was another thing that you mentioned in the book, again, where I'm saying about people who experience this as people who just talk about. There was something that you mentioned in the book, and it wasn't something that I think you mentioned necessarily intentionally, but it was just things that mentioned throughout the book, and it made me have a thought, which was a lot of people merge something today where you made more of a distinction on. I'm going to say what it is in a second, and I'm just going to say if you can tell us what those little distinctions are. So you had gatekeepers, the spirit gatekeepers, then you had the spirits that are at the crossroads, and then you mentioned like the devil at the crossroads, the one that your grandmother told you about when you was taking the shortcut back home. A lot of people merge all that together, but like you said, one's here, one's there, and one we're not working with at all. And I was wondering if you could tell us those distinctions from your culture, from your experience, please.
It's back to Genie Loci, spirit of place. The spirit, the gatekeeper of the cemetery, that's their place. That's where you find them. You know, you don't find them any place else. That's where they are, where they exist. You know, the crossroads spirits, again, that's their place where they exist. And there are many different spirits in the crossroads. And there's many deities, gods and goddesses that are associated with crossroads. You know, Hecate is the big one for the goddess of the crossroads. I wouldn't go out to sea and expect to find her. She's not an ocean goddess. She's a crossroads goddess. Keep her in her place, I guess, is how my brain works. You know, and whereas for the devil, you can also find the devil in the bramble. if there's these trees that are tangled together in a certain way, I'm still doing a little bit. There was a bit of notes on the Devil's Bramble that I'm still working with right now, where within our folk magic, the devil exists on the crossroads, but he also exists in these brambly wood type places. That dark one that gives you a chill when you walk through it. You know, you're like, ooh. And is that bramble actually a naturally occurring crossroads? We just can't see it with our physical eyes. So he's still in a crossroads explanation. The devil in the crossroads is a little difficult for folks outside of culture because he's not the Christian devil. He's completely outside of that. He is part of the African American experience that got slapped against Native Americans and Europeans. And did he come from Africa in the Middle Passage? Was he already existing here within Native American lore, and they had already identified this spirit of the crossroads, the devil in the crossroads? A lot of questions on how that devil appeared. Within our Christian prayer healers, the devil equates to temptation. Is how, if I was, my grandmother was, he always tempts us. He tries to get us in trouble, tries to get us to do things we ought not do. So she viewed him more of almost like a trickster spirit. And she never equated him to the devil in the Bible, you know, because I do remember asking her about that. And she was like, no, that's not him, you know. And so, yeah, it is a little confusing sometimes, but they are very, each spirit has its place. And we have to be mindful that we don't. Just because things are so similar doesn't mean they're the same. And I think within the folk magic community, we have a tendency to think, oh, well, these are alike, so they're the same. And things can be similar, things can be alike and still be different. You know, and that a lot of times in the community, it's just easier to do, what is it, broad strokes, simplify it down to stupid. And this isn't simple, it is complex, and you do have to think about it. And you got to spend time with it. You talked earlier, you know, the aesthetics of, ooh, I got graveyard dirt. You know, an author put out a book, I'm not going to mention but on her, you know, utterly wickedness, and in that she had a little chapter on graveyard dirt, and I like read 4 or 5 paragraphs into it, and I was like, this woman's never done this. This is Googled information that's regurgitated, that's circular. This woman has no freaking idea what she's talking about, getting crossroads dirt out of a cemetery. I know the source material she read it from. She went back, wrote it, put it in her book, and put her little spin on it. And it was the most disrespectful thing. I was like, I could not debate between burning it or cursing it.
I'm going to put that quote in my back pocket.
It was so disrespectful. You do not go into the graveyard with a bucket and take dirt out of the middle of a crossroads, put it in little jars and put your name on it and go, look, I got graveyard dirt, crossroad graveyard dirt for sale. I would have, if you even brought that within my presence, I do not want that. That is the most disrespectful thing I've heard when it comes to how do you handle graveyard dirt? Well, that's how you don't do it. All right. I am not a proponent of, at any point, the buying and selling of graveyard dirt. That is where our community is. Its brain done fell out of its head, and we're trying to be commercialized to the point we ain't got nothing. All right, you cannot sell connection to spirit. Some grifter con artist might try to convince you he can, and he's disrespecting, and then he's handing you dirt that's been disrespected. You don't want to take that home. All right? Graveyard dirt, conjuring, it's your connection to spirit. When I go in, very rarely do I take dirt off of someone's graveyard. Very rarely, grave site, do I even touch someone's grave site. Unless, of course, it's my grandma's. And then I'll get out there with a shovel and just be digging. But that's because I know my grandma real well. All right. When I may, like I said, pick up a handful of dirt at the grave site. I may pray into that dirt, and then I put that dirt back down onto the grave. All right, because I know the dirt carries the memory. It carries my song. It carries the psalm that I read to these people. And it's more important to leave it than it is to take it. And when I'm out in my space, when I'm in front of my altar, I still have that connection. I don't need the dirt to come home with me. Spirit knows what spirit knows. You can't fool God or Mother Nature.
You just reminded me of a teacher that I had, actually. She actually is an aromatherapist, but she said something really similar about Mother Nature. And she was on about synthetic oils, people selling you synthetic oils instead of essential oils. And she said, even if you read the chemistry through a machine, there's 1% of chemicals in all essential oils. We don't know what they are. We can never know what they are. And she always used to describe it as Mother Nature's trademark, because she said if you take that out, it becomes a different chemical. It's something else, because that extra something is missing, and we'll never be able to know what it is. And she said as well, the best thing with synthetics is they smell lovely. You burn them, they smell like burning plastic. And she said, and she thinks it's amazing they smell like plastic, because she says, it's almost like Mother Nature saying to you, this is synthetic, it is fake. This has never seen a flower. And it's like you said, you can't be smarter than these things. They're so much greater than us. But it also makes so much sense, like you said, putting the dirt back. Like you said, it's a relationship with the spirit. It's not so much about the dirt, it's about where the dirt's from and its story. And it reminds me of what we do here. I remember somebody saying they had a bad time with dirt. I don't know how they collected the dirt. I really don't. But I remember they collected some graveyard dirt from a particular site, and it's a site that is similar to my local graveyard, where there are customs. And when people are interred in the ground, like you said, they become part of the spirit of place, which means the culture is part of the spirit of place. And here we are in certain graveyards, we have a tradition: you never touch the dirt. And it's like, well, if you're going to go dig in the dirt, no spirit has told you can do that, when the culture is you never take the dirt. What we do is we take an item like a candle or something, and you go to the back of the grave, and you almost use that like I want to say like a little altar or shrine, whatever, and you put the candle there at the back. Then you go back to the front and you talk to the spirit, and then you see if it's happy to work with you. Then you'll pour your offerings, and then you go back around and you take the candle. And the candle has been blessed, charged, whatever you want to call it, by the spirit. You can take other items. I'm just using the candle as an example. And then you come home, you light your candle, and you're working with that spirit. We're using dirt. It's on the dirt. We're pouring into the dirt, but we're never taking the dirt. And it's like you said as well before, there are some places you don't mess with. And I was going to ask you, but you put it so perfectly, about your thoughts on people selling dirt. Because the little I know about Hoodoo before I even read the book, I know that you have to buy the dirt. I know you have to tell the spirit what you want to do with the dirt. Someone who's getting this doesn't know who's going to buy it or what they're going to do with it. So it can't have been taken in that way, because there's no way they're going to know who they're selling that little pot to.
I'm going to go up to some grave and be sitting there talking about, hey, I need your dirt so I can resell it and make money off of it.
Right.
And you're telling me that Spirit said, sure, go ahead. All right, I'm going to take this dirt and not tell your story. I'm going to put my name on the label and sell it and make money. You're okay with that, right? I mean, of course they're not. Who would be? I'm going to go out into the middle of the crossroads of your cemetery and dig a hole so that you now have a pothole. And then I'm going to put them in bottles and sell it and make money. And you're okay with that. You know, and I'm like, yeah, we have payment is given to spirit. If we use it in a working, if I'm a client-based working, I am going to charge for my services. I'm not charging for the dirt that I'm using. That is my dirt that I've got a personal, I've made offerings. I'm now using that spirit to aid me in whatever working I'm doing. All right. And that would the big thing here is some of the previous practitioners. We typically, any of your good, well-known root workers, conjure folk, when they die, the family has to put their body someplace in secret. It's like Doc Buzzard is one of our big folks here. He's buried outside of Beaufort. There are a handful of people who know the actual grave site. The family will tell you that he's over at the church over there. Why do they do that? Is because as good practitioners, we'll go dig dirt up off you. Because I want Doc Buzzard to aid me in my working. So I'm gonna go see if I can't get his spirit to work with me and get a little handful of his dirt. And if I am working after midnight, meaning I am working dark magic, we have several old school workings that require the left hand of a practitioner, as in skeletal bones. And so we're not above digging up somebody if need be. And that's like with Marie Laveau is another one where they'll tell you that, I think it's St. Louis #2 is where the memorial tomb to her is. She is not in that. That is a memorial tomb that the family put up so that everyone would go there instead of going to where she's actually buried. And you can do a little research and you can find out what parish where she's buried. But even then, you'll still not find it. They hide them because we do use dirt. And we will go after the dirt of a practitioner. That is one of the big things, I was very serious, of quirky incidences and put me at Doc Buzzard's graveyard. And I'm standing at his gravesite. I was with some other people and I reached down to get the dirt and I had a serious no come at me. And I didn't even touch. I had just started to crouch down and it was like, no. And I was like, okay, not mine to play with. And stood there politely watching and everybody else took their little scoops and whatnot. Prayers were said. Doc Buzzard liked rum. So we proceeded to pour a couple of fifths of rum on the ground, drink it ourselves, dance around and things like that in honor of Doc Buzzard. And I left there feeling like I had given the respect that I needed to, but he doesn't want to work with me. And I didn't take it personal at all. And that's again, what we're talking about. Not every place is yours, and learning that and that it's okay. And that it doesn't mean nothing against me. I'm just not somebody he wants to work with. And I've been other places because we have Doc Bones, who's up by the North Carolina border. I've been at his grave and I just love Doc Bones. I had a whole different experience where I felt like he was inviting me in. And I ended up sitting there leaning up against the tombstone and I was reading his biography to him. Is something I like to do. I sit there and read what I know about the people out loud to them. that this is what they're saying about you. This is what do you think? Oh my God, that was so interesting. And I have all these little commentaries. I have a whole conversation, you know, and that is how I personally connect. Now, this doesn't mean everyone's doing it the same way I'm doing it either. And that's something else. I mean, I gave you in Conjuring Dirt a window into some of my personal practice. And I really hope that it inspires folks to go get their personal practice. You know, I can't, not every gatekeeper at every cemetery is going to welcome you. And that's okay. And how are you going to connect to them? Where is yours? Is your connection, you know, one of a dear friend of mine, you get her in a graveyard and she's singing. She sings songs. She knows some really fun little ditties and all sorts of strange little songs. And she sings songs. She has a beautiful voice too. I felt like if I sang, I would offend. So it's not, but when she's out there singing, it's so beautiful to sit and listen to her singing to them. And that's her connections. And she'll be like, oh, and I've been with her and she's been like, oh, nobody wants me to sing. Oh, I shouldn't be here. And she doesn't, and she can feel that that's not where she belongs. That's not where her songs should be sung. And so for it's each of us to get out and find your way. That was, you talked about my video, experience it, get messy. You're going to make mistakes and it's okay. Spirits are fine. They're not going to go out in the graveyard and get sent to a portal of hell. All right. It's doesn't, I've never, ever have I even nothing like that. That's Hollywood bullshit. What's the worst thing that's going to happen in the graveyard? Nothing. That's what's going to happen. Nothing. You're going to feel nothing. Nothing's going to happen.
I always say that. I always said the worst thing that can happen in your magic in most experiences is nothing happens. And you've gone all that way and nothing. I did want to, oh, go on.
I was just saying, that's about working with the graveyard, is get past all of this society fear of the boogeyman. That don't happen. I've been haunting graveyards for over 40 years now. I mean,
so true, yeah. You mentioned something which I'm going to just condense into something that is what I've been calling it while I've been reading your book. I hit a point and I was like, I definitely need to talk to Taren about this. And I'm referring to it as the myth of Mullen. Oh. People always say you can think it, yeah. And I was so glad you put that in there because I'm sick of reading it. Can you just give us a little test for anyone who wonders what we're talking about?
In the 90s, with the explosion of the awareness of folk magic, is where we start seeing because if we look into contemporary paganism and Wicca, they do not work within this aspect. They're, at this time, Wicca was very much the love and light, almost, you know, to toxic positivity, and that we don't do bad magic. We don't do evil things. We only work good. We are white witches. All of this phraseology was going on in the time period, but at the same time, they were getting the awareness of folk magic. And for them to make it palatable, to keep it in their love and light, we don't do harm bubble, was this equation of Mullen, which Mullen actually is an herb of the dead, as a substitute for graveyard dirt so that it was more palatable commercially. So all this is about is how can I sell my book and sort of sound scary, but not really be scary. And at the same time, I'm afraid of graveyards, so I know you're afraid of graveyards too. So we're going to use Mullen. We have herbs that are herbs of the dead. They have been used. Mullen is an herb that is used for remembrance. A lot of times when a body is laid out, this would have been the Victorian times, they lay them on a bed of herbs, partially because of the smell. because the body could typically lay out for 2, 3, 4 days before you actually put it in the ground. And they would put it in their parlor, in their house, or, we didn't have funeral homes at that time. And they would put a bed of herbs, and mullein was one of the herbs that was used for that time period. So that's where its association comes from. There is no substitute. Graveyard dirt is graveyard dirt. That's it. There's no substitute. And I've had a couple of times where I've gotten into conversation with a Wiccan author who wrote in her book about you can use it. She tried to explain it to me, and I was like, no. This is the clear crystal quartz replaces all cell stones. Rosemary is good for all these different things. And I look at it as a way to water it down, make it more palatable. And that's why it's easier for me to sell you stuff. And when we're talking dirt and graveyard dirt in particular, you heard me talking earlier, this isn't something we ever sell. I never would contemplate it. All right. So they had to figure out, well, what can we sell? Well, I can sell mullein. Our community has really suffered these past, I think we're 2 decades into how commercialized can magic become. And it's at the point now where everybody's got a master class for everything. And that's not what it's about. It's back to that personal practice. I feel like I'm on a soapbox preaching. I'll be like, and let me tell you, and I want to hear an amen from the choir.
Amen.
We do not sell graveyard dirt. We don't sell spirit folk.
That's a good way of putting it. That is a good way of putting it. You can't sell the spirits. That is the best way of putting it. You can't sell spirit folk. There you go. You heard it here. And don't worry about soapbox. My entire channel is a soapbox. Be honest. But you're right though, this over commercializing thing and the watering down and the love and light. I remember when, because the word Wicca is part of my dialect. It's where it comes from, because Jill Gardner was from here, Patricia and Alan Crowther were from here. It's just the way that we speak. Like you'll have terms like in the South where you are, you have like a hint, a type of spirit. We have words here, everywhere has its own words. And I remember coming across Wicca and thinking, what the hell are these people talking about? Because it's certainly not how I know that term here, because it's just the name of the person who does the work. It's the name of the worker here. And it's like, when they said like, oh, and they don't curse and things, and I'm like, if they ever came here, everyone knows how to curse. It's they wouldn't survive. I don't know, because they'd be stepping on something, they'd be taking something that they shouldn't. They wouldn't know what they was doing. It's a shame, but it's true.
I was in the shop. I was in the Botanica. My first books were like Anna Riva, and like I think like Papa Jim's Herbal Handbook, and which I still love. Just so y'all know, I still use that book. Anna Riva's book of Black and White Magic, I think was one of mine, but I came into it in a conjuring, in a hoodoo realm. And so I was introduced to it as, you can do good and bad. And then somewhere in the early 90s, I think we had 2 Wiccan girls walk into the shop and tell Papa that they don't curse and that what he's doing is evil. And I remember, because I was sitting behind the counter listening to the conversation, and these little girls were so righteous, is the word I would like to use. And like almost looking down at Papa with, oh my God, what you're doing is wrong. And I was just so startled. And, Papa was very polite and sure, whatever you believe, whatnot, and everything. They looked at a couple of the things that we had in the shop with, oh my God, did you see what they have? And they left. And we, of course, had a major discussion. Everyone was like, who in the world, what just happened to us? And then to find out that was the same time that Silver Ravenwolf, Silver to Ride a
Ravenwolf, yeah.
Right, what's that? Ride a Broomstick book.
To Ride a Silver Broomstick.
Yes, this was when that book came out, is when they started coming into the shop to tell us we were doing it wrong. Now, they're standing in front of a Haitian voodoo priest telling him what he's doing is wrong. That was my introduction to I met my first Wiccan.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes me laugh as well is those people who want to say, you're wrong, no cursing, blah, 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 blah. I've been planning on doing a YouTube video on this, but I'm going to just drop it in here, even though I'll still do the video, was that they always say, oh, the rule of three. If you came here where it came from, you would know the rule of three, although we don't call it the rule of three, it's threefold return, is a curse. It's a cursing method. It's not karma comes and gets you. It's I come and get you, and I come and slam threefold on you because I'm going to invoke my gods to smash the hell out of you because you crossed me. It is a retaliatory magic. And then they always cite it. Oh no, you're evil, you do curses. It's like they're citing a curse to condemn you for cursing. And the curse they're citing is twofold stronger than the one that they're condemning you for. It's like
again, to watering it down, a little bit of rewording, and we can make it love and light.
Love and light.
You know, when conjure works within righteous vengeance. If you're righteous, you're good to go. Now, and it's a very ethical question. Are you righteous in what you're doing? All right. And this is where you got to be honest with your own personal situation. And if you have been wronged, you have the right to retaliate. But you really have to answer the first part is, have you really been wronged? Or was it just your pride, your ego? You know, did you get your buttons pushed and you got triggered a little? I mean, versus are you truly righteous? This person, this situation, this was wrong. And what they did was wrong. And when that line's crossed, then you have every right to defend, deflect, defer, destroy. All right, very much so that you come at me and I'm going to hit you 3 times as hard so that you never mess with me again. That is my rule of 3. You know, and I was, like I said, in that world to begin with, and then being exposed to this new age Wiccan philosophy of explaining that they're an old ancient religion. And that we can only do good things, and that if somebody does something bad, I guess we turn the cheek, we ignore it, or we just announce that they're bad people. I don't know what you're supposed to do, you know. But conjure is, we were talking earlier about within, you know, other aspects of magic and witchcraft. These are ethical questions that you need to ask yourself. These are difficult questions, and we need to have these difficult conversations. You have said that.
It's so true. It is. And I think the thing as well that always makes me laugh is, like you said, when the sort of commercializing of it came in, the watering down, and then the ancient religion thing. And the thing that always cracks me up is if people actually just dig, even just not even very far now, if they dig a little, I'll tell you, the main shift in this happened because of a trademark conflict, and Llewellyn wasn't sure where the legal position was, so they just shifted a new marketing strategy, and that has become the ancient religion from a potential trademark dispute in the 80s that actually would never have held up anyway. They ended up finding it didn't actually matter in the end. And that is everyone's ancient philosophy. It's a rebranding marketing campaign because they weren't sure about what they could publish or what they could say because they were scared of being sued in the 80s because there was some lawsuits going on around witchcraft stuff in the 1970s in America, and there was a little, and they stood back and squeaky cleaned it and then realized it didn't actually matter anyway. And that is where a whole community has been catapulted because of a potential wobble over a trademark. But that segues me beautifully because I wanted to ask you. You mentioned at the beginning, you've got your sort of. I'm probably phrasing this badly, but you have like those European influences that come in. You've got the hoodoo and the conjure elements. You've got these other elements that all came together and made like this crossroads for you. What do you feel is the if anything, the common thread that goes through all those different components and ties it together? Dirt. It's a perfect answer, isn't it?
They all work with dirt. They all stand on dirt. They all acknowledge the genie loci in their own ways. And I think that was for me a big thing was listening to Papa talk about when he goes back to Haiti and how good the dirt feels between his toes. It's his home. He's folks are buried there, and that how much I could relate to what he was saying. When I came back from California, I did actually take off my shoes and stand there and wiggle my toes in the dirt. This commonality of the dirt, we're all using it. We use different words, but we're all connecting to it. And how important it is for us as practitioners to connect to this. I'm like getting at a loss for words because it's just so important to be connected to place. Yes, magic comes from within. Yes, we are the power of, but we also have the ability to connect with that which is around us. And one of the best ways to connect to everything that's around us is through the dirt. You're connecting to all of the trees in the forest, a very powerful dirt. It's like I have grand oaks. They're called the living oaks. If you think of the South where they have the big oak tree with the Spanish moss hanging in it, very Southern Gothic spooky. They start, through the Spanish moss. I actually have some on my property and everything. I love to sit at the base of that tree and the dirt. I'm playing in the dirt and the memories that tree out there is about 250 years old. All right. And I'll sit there and be thinking, I'll be like, tell me what you know. Tell me what you've seen, because it's 250 years of memories that tree has. And it's connected to the dirt around it.
I love that. I do. Yeah, dirt. It's like you said at the very beginning, and it's one of my favorite quotes in the book. Hold dirt in your hand, and you're holding the entire universe. You're holding all those stories, and I really do love that. I do. It was such a beautiful quote, and it made me go. That was a big light bulb moment for me. I was like, of course it is. Of course, it makes so much sense. As we're winding down the interview, though, I do have one quick question, which I was asking you earlier, and I've just remembered I didn't ask. So we asked about your magical background, but I wanted to ask everybody who came on here, what keeps you here? What is that thing that doesn't stop you from just going off doing something else? Why this particular style of magic for you? What is it that keeps you here?
Is that fate? It's where I'm supposed to be. I have that deep sense that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I've Since I put on a pointy black hat, I think I was 14, 15 years old when I was like, I'm a witch. You know, I've never thought different. And the community has been so good to me. Because of all of those things, I just think about all the stuff how much wonderful I've gotten out of the community. It's my family. I don't know any different.
Mm.
At this point in my life, I mean, I'm 60 years old. I'm like, I don't know anything different. It's what's comfortable. I'm like, I don't want to learn anything else. I don't know. No, the wonderment would be a word I would want to use. I feel like every day has the possibility for something new. There's this sense of wonderment. And that just when you think you got it figured out, Mother Nature shows you something you never thought of. And I love that. And my relationship with divinity is not static or dogmatic. That it's just this wonderful, bright, sparkly in my life. And so that keeps me. The goddess does. I like her. I think she's great. I think she has a sense of humor, or at least my relationship with her is very amusing.
I love that. I do. I resonate. I've smelled so much through this interview. My cheek's going to be like in pain tomorrow because I just love everything I do. So for other people who are watching this, they're loving it too. Where can they connect with you? And here is the book. Don't forget the book.
Yes, the book Conjuring Dirt, Magic of Footprints, Crossroads and Graveyards, Moon Book Publishing. You can go to Amazon.com where the entire world is for sale. And then houseofwitchcraft.com, House of Witchcraft on YouTube, House of Witchcraft on Instagram, House of Witchcraft on TikTok, and Taren S on Facebook. And just send me a message.
I'll put all
I do try really hard to respond to everyone. I appreciate so much when people reach out to me. You know, I think we all do as authors. It's nice to have somebody send you a little message. You're like, oh, that's nice. You know, and so yes, House of Witchcraft. Like I said, I have a YouTube channel where my YouTube channel is about just inspiring, empowering, encouraging other practitioners to get out there and do you, boo.
Yeah, I will put all the links to all of that in the video description. Everybody can find that. You mentioned the book club at the beginning. How do people get into
Reach out to me. Send me a DM on any of those platforms with, hey, Taren, I want to come to your book club. And I will send you the link. We get together Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We are contemplating our next book club, trying to make it more friendly to some other folks, different time zones. We're trying to figure that out. But at this point, Thursday, 8 p.m., and like I said, this is community. There's no charge. You don't have to turn on your camera, and you don't even have to read the book that we're currently working on. You can just listen, be a part of our discussions. Sometimes we get off. You know how it is. You go places.
Especially when there's witches involved.
Oh, we have a wonderful group that joins. I really like it. I would rather have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people that are all leaning in and we're having a great dynamic discussion. Then, I'm not about the numbers. If you tell like, oh, I have 50 people show up, I'm like, ooh, that sounds like an ego talking.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get members. And I'm like, I don't want members. I want people who are interested.
So all interesting people, there is the call. Go connect with Taren. So Taren, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it. And please, everyone, go really do connect with Taren, get the book. I swear it is an amazing book, and we literally only scratched the surface of this book. It is so good. There's even more things I could have even asked. Like there's so much more we could have explored with this. So go get the book. It's all there. It's a wonderful book, and it's written by such a wonderful person. Why wouldn't you want to read it? So everyone, please do. If you have read it, drop a comment in the comment section. What do you think? We want to
And
hear.
leave a review on Amazon. If
Yes.
you like an author's books, not just mine, any author, and really the algorithm, the way the whole thing works out, reviews really help us. And so if you like my books, you like Craig's books, any other author's books, go leave a little quick review on Amazon for them. That will really help them.
Very
Because it
true.
pushes how high up we are.
That's it, because sometimes people don't find books without this algorithm, which is a terrible thing. And if you like a book, you should want other people to find it too. So do somebody else a kindness, let them find the book. And it's not like we're making millions from a book anyway. It's not like we're rinsing cash from people. It's like I actually got mine, which I will also say direct from the publisher. I will also put the link to that in the description, because particularly if you want the ebook like I did, it was so easy to get. It was so easy. They made it so convenient, and it just shoots an email and you pop it straight on your device. So simple. So until next time, bye guys. Bye Taren. Thank you.
Bye.